Okay, as far as tools go, let me run the gamut on this one real quick, and then we'll just talk about some display options, and then we'll get into tracking. So, by now, you guys should be fairly familiar with your tools. Um, your zoom tool, like I said, best suggested use is use it minimally. But again, if you double click the zoom tool, you should use this frequently. If you just double click it, it zooms out all the way so that you see whatever your longest region is. So if I was like, let me zoom out a little. If I had something all the way down here, okay, you see this? So I just copied, paste the file all the way down here at the 7-minute mark. By double clicking, it's going to show me the overview end to end. All right. So like a lot of times when I'm working on music, it's about 3.5 minutes or so. You know, you're usually looking at somewhere inside of that range. But if you double click, it's just going to show you just end to end. So if you ended up not having anything down here, and all you have is stuff established at the front, it's going to kind of show you the overview in a zoomed in format, which is kind of nice. So it's real important that's a useful tool. Another thing here is you guys should be fairly familiar with the big three. Trim tool. One thing that you may not be very aware of is the option key with the trim tool. So let's say we get zoomed in here. Actually, I'm going to undo some of this stuff. There we go. Check this out. All right, can you see this? Please write this down. Option equals reverse of the trim tool. Option equals reverse of the trim tool. So if you hold option with your trim tool, what it's going to do is it's going to kick your trim tool in the opposite direction. So notice how my trim tool is facing. What happens if I click right now? Which side's going to go away? Left side, right? Because of the way that it's facing. So if I click this, there goes my left. Well, a lot of times you may have to decide whether or not that's the case, but it's going to try to do it automatically. And if it's incorrect, you just hold option. You see what just happened? Yeah. All right. Pretty simple, right? The other thing is there are a couple other options here in your trim tool. Time compression expansion. This essentially just establishes it's a different format. Instead of trimming it by pulling the region that lies underneath, what it does instead is it's essentially it drags the region so it's warping it into a length kind of establishment. So if I pull it back, instead of it trimming back, what it's actually going to do is it's going to expand or compress, right? Pretty simple, right? So time compression expansion. Preferably, if you're doing quick warping, this works. Preferably, I always choose elastic audio over this option because it always sounds better. Unfortunately, time compression expansion a lot of times does change the pitch and the frequency as you change the length or the duration. And so that's why a lot of times it's not the most viable. And then, of course, the loop tool. This thing's pretty brilliant. If you haven't used it before and you're creating loops, all you do is trim it back, and with the size of that region or the clip that exists, it's just going to loop it based upon how large it is. You see how these loop markers are all down at the bottom? Loop, 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 right? It's pretty simple. I mean, if I wanted to establish, follow me with this one actually, if I said, you know what, I just need, I want this one beat, I'm going to actually kick it to grid. So let's go to the grid. Let's see something that's a line. This one. All right, here we go, right here. I'm going to copy paste this down here. So say this is a little beat I got going on here. It falls right on the grid. If I want to establish it as a loop, what I can do is I can just use that tool, right, that loop trim tool, and it's just going to trim the loop over and over again. Oops, sorry, I didn't do that right. It's going to trim that loop over and over again, so it loops, 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 essentially. So it's just going to continue to loop, although it's not establishing loop correction. They're doing that. That's weird. Here's a test. The other thing we can do with this loop tool, which it's very, very beneficial. If you zoom out, what I love about the loop tool, preferably, is that you guys ever use loops? Anybody use loops? You ever notice that a lot of times the loop doesn't start and end throughout the whole song at the exact same moment? So like at the very end of a song, you're running some loops. A lot of times at the very end of the song, it has to stop like dead center of the loop or dead middle of the loop. What I like about the loop trim tool is that unlike using the duplicate, you guys probably use the duplicate command, or you probably use, there is a loop option command in the tracks window. This one allows you to free adjust your loop, which is nice because you can really get in there and say, you know what, the loop, the end of this loop actually needs to be just shy of the beat 1 marker, but not on it, and you could really get in nice and tight and actually set up where that repeat is without having to go back in and manually establish changes to the clip. Another benefit of the loop, why this would be more useful than duplicating, this automatically includes crossfades on the clips themselves.
Automatic?
Yeah, so other than having to go through and generate them manually. So transitions should be nice and healed. Let's see. Selector tool. This guy's simple. You guys should know what this is. This one's a no-brainer. Now, and then the grabber tool. When do you use the grabber tool? Anybody know? When's the grabber tool fairly useful? Yeah, drag when you're actually dragging or making drag movements. It's got a huge, huge task in automation. What is it? Yeah, the breakpoints. It establishes, creates, deletes breakpoints. That's where this thing comes into play. So see where there's the grabber and it says time, separation, object. Technically, these different options. Oh, let me switch this to. These different options allow for a different type of grabber in the objects tool. If we were to do this at the end here, notice what's happening. If I hold shift, I can collect a bunch of clips that are not what we call non-contiguous. Non-contiguous means they don't touch each other. So notice how I just grabbed a whole separate group of clips. The benefit to this is you may have some clips, especially in like video posts. There's a lot of times where you have clips layered like this that not all of them need to be moved, but just these guys do. So you can copy paste these, you can duplicate these in this form. Let's just say I did Command D. Watch what happens here. Notice the only parts that got copied down to the end were the ones that I had copied here. Again, beneficial there. You can use this in music though easily, like if you're doing like different layers or different parts, and you don't want all of them copied into the repeat. Right, that repeated phrase, you just select just the objects that you want. Again, they're non-contiguous. In a normal scenario, if you're using the normal grabber, if you hold shift, this is what happens. So if you're using time, if you hold shift, if I click this and hold shift, and I wanted to go get this one, the purple one in the end, it's going to highlight everything between those two tracks and lengthwise. Pretty interesting, right? Yeah, I haven't actually used the separate command. I'll have to check that out. Anybody used the separate command as of yet? Separation? I'll have to check that one out. Get back to you because I've never found a use for it. So I'll have to check it out. Then we have the scrubber tool and the pencil tool. Scrubber tool gets you the opportunity to slowly slide through pieces of audio. Really good for post. A lot of times you don't really need a whole lot of this for audio, but most of the time you're looking for like dialogue, specifics of dialogue when they transition from vowel to a consonant. A lot of times you're going to use it in that form. And then the pencil tool. And the pencil tool, well, most people don't know about the pencil tool. Anybody use the pencil tool?
Like for automation, right?
Yes, automation. Most people kind of forget about the pencil tool as a huge benefit for automation. So, and check this out. So, if you haven't used the pencil tool, make a note in your notebook. Pencil tool, great for automation, especially combined with the use of the grid. Why would I say such a thing? Because let's say I want to automate panning. You guys ever automated panning? Like, sometimes I got parts in my music and I want them to ping pong, go boom, 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 right? Guitar parts that just go ba-da, 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 right? Big hits, right? So, easy way to do that based upon the bar and beat. Little thing called square. You're going to take that pencil tool. You'll go tell the grid, hey, grid. And so this is your grid control. It's off to the right if you haven't used it much before. This is your grid control. I'm going to take the grid value of, you know what, we're going to do half notes. Maybe, all right? And then I'm going to go over to one of these lanes, and I'm going to do the track view selector. Let's take pan. Now, the big key here is if this is mapped to bars and beats, if you select grid now, when you jump in here and you start writing this automation, whatever that grid option you selected was, it essentially will map to the grid. So see how for every grid marker there is, it's just writing this thing in there. Now what you do is you click and you drag. So here, let me undo. You just click, drag, and then you have to establish how much. Is it a hard pan? Is it a little pan? So notice if I do it like this, it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. All right, so let's see. Let me see if my interface is even doing anything today. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Hold on one second. Let's see if we can get this reestablished. Sorry, I had a little problem with the O3 not firing correctly. But they're known for being offline when they're not supposed to be, so. 3. Check my IO. Oh, this looks tidy. Oh, missing my buses. There we go. Okay, so open recent. Let's see how well this does. There we go. All right, so check this out. Let's solo this track.
Diapason. Sounds of the world. Diapason. Sounds of the world.
Pretty interesting, right? So that's my panning option. Let me do something here. Surrender.
Or with his last. Not so bad. More with his last. Not so bad.
Not so bad. All right, so
More with his last.
there's our panning automation.
Not so bad.
There's our panning automation utilizing this feature with the pencil tool. Now you can do other stuff, like that was a hard pan. Now the catch with pans is on a hard pan, if it's supposed to be bam bam, like boom boom, and they're already supposed to be fixed in position, you got to use the square tool. Why? Because you can't hear them merge. You're not supposed to hear them pan too. You're supposed to hear them in place. If you were wanting to hear a panning towards that direction, meaning you wanted to hear it go zzz, 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 like from a location to a location, you're going to have to use a triangle tool, right? So let's say I back this up. Switch this to triangle tool. Back this up. Oh, shoot, I forgot. Can't do it that way because I had to. All right, so let's try this. Let's get rid of this one too. There we go. Okay, same thing. So triangle tool, start from the beginning or start from where I want to. And again, it's aligned to the grid, but see how it's doing this? It's going to go to instead of be established at immediately. So then we can just.
Where with this last? Not so bad. Where with this last? Not so bad.
Right? You understand that?
Last.
Understand what's going on there with it? It's moving towards its pan. So that's the brilliance of what we could very easily do with the pencil tool. I remember before they had these options, manually doing this, I'd have a client come in here and go, well, I want my vocal to go, and then it'd go, all right, well, and then after that, I want it to do stutter effect. And then you're like, okay, so I have to manually map all this out. And it would take like an hour to get it all mapped out, timed out, put in. Do they like it? No, I don't like it that way. Maybe a little less. No, maybe a little more. And they back and forth, back and forth. The brilliance of this tool is all that stuff takes like 2 seconds now. Map it to grid, attach it to grid, lock it in grid. Now, key with this is, I'll tell you right now, hands down, I do not record any musician without a grid. All right? So I will not record clients without click. Even if they ask it of me, what I'll tell them is, come back when you know how to play a click. Because if you don't know how to play a click, if my clients can't record to click, all that editing that's supposed to take me like 2 seconds is going to take me 2 hours because I'm going to have to manually do everything. Oh yeah. Can you copy paste the chorus from chorus 1 to chorus 3? Not if you didn't go to click because there are 2 different tempos, right? Even with the most well-established drummer or well-established tempos, they're going to be different. It's not going to be a one-to-one. I can't fly parts, And then what's worse is if the drums are off, and then the bass player gets in, and the bass player's off, and then the guitars get off, and before you know it, everybody's just slightly out of the range. And it just gets sloppy and it gets slushy. Now, we're talking about harmonics here. If you guys want to do music, you should understand one key about harmonics. If everything's in time and everything's in tune, a multitude of sounds will generate glorious harmonics. If everything's out of tune and everything's out of time, a multitude of sound will start to sound like garbage. Hands down. You know what I mean? It's the difference between angels singing and someone scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard. And I'm being real, because this is how it happens. And this is an established problem with multi-tracking. Multi-tracking created one big problem. Overdubbing layers. By adding layers, when the Beatles were playing, life was easy. They just all play together, and if they were out of tune, they just tune it up and they do it again. Well, once I started doing the dubbing, then all of a sudden it created a problem where, if there's 5 layers of my same guitar, every instance of that guitar has 5 opportunities to be slightly out of tune with each other, or slightly out of time with each other. Now that bands don't play live and musicians don't perform live with each other, it's very easy for vocalists to be out of time. It's very easy for the musicians to be out of time. They have a hard time being in sync. When they were in a room together and they could all see each other, I could watch every time the drummer hits the snare. I could watch every time the guitar player plays the chord. I could see it. There's a visual connection. When we're doing this multi-tracking overdubbing idea, everybody's in this isolation and they're just listening for the sound, and that's when they go. And unfortunately, what that means is, even with the use of the metronome, most people are either one of 2 things, slightly ahead or slightly behind. And there's a huge theoretical value that goes with that. The idea is, in order to hear the click, they always play before the click, or in order to hear the click, they always play behind the click, because when you play with the click, especially for drummers, when you play with the click, you should never hear the click. Does that make sense? Because the click's happening when I'm hitting my drums. So I should actually never hear it. And once I start hearing it, that's when I know I'm getting off. Kind of odd, right? But that's how it works. So it's very important and imperative for you, in order to make the most use of your time in these tools, you can't free fly anything, right? You shouldn't be free flying anything. You should make an established, concerted effort to, hey, because I've had clients come in and go, yeah, we want to do this, and all right, How good are you at click? Oh, we've never done it. Okay, I can tell you, especially if you want to go to click, because you need to go to click in order to have a good, solid amount of time. Click doesn't mean it's robotic. It just means that you have an established, maintained reference of time. That maintained reference of time for newbies, they couldn't do it in a month. You know, give you 6 months, 3 months at minimum, but give you a good 6 months on click, get your drummer on click, get your band on click. It makes a world of difference. But if you were to jump in here and try to spend your money with me trying to learn to play click, you're basically paying for rehearsal space, right? You're paying to come rehearse in the studio. That's a big no. You know, we're not supposed to be rehearsing in the studio. We're supposed to be recording. Yes, sir.
So why they don't use the click?
Most bands don't use. Well, most artists don't use a click as an established startup because you know most of them just hey, we get a drummer and we just follow the drummer. Whatever the drummer does, we follow. Okay. That's why a lot of times they do that. You know, most people that play beats or that are doing some sort of beat pattern, their beats are always at least assigned to a grid, so at least there's an established tempo. But a lot of times, most up-and-coming bands are just like, hey, we got in the garage and we just started playing, you know, and that's how we do our thing, you know, and it just, I get it, you know, it makes sense. Most people don't think in terms of making sure they're using a metronome, and I think that's one of the things you just have to encourage your artists to do, because again, you couldn't pull this panning operation off at all without having to go in there and manually do. I've been there, dude. I've been there. It's highly suggest easier to just say no and say, let's wait until you're ready. And then when we do this, we'll really do it well. You know, instead of just jumping into it and then because here's the thing. You don't think about this. You guys, if I were to say, hey, you know what? I need you guys to do this for me. You guys and me are in a band. And you three are our engineers, okay? So I'm going to hire you. I'm going to pay you today, hire you today, all right? We're going to do an 8-hour session. But that whole session doesn't include, there's no lunch break. Hopefully you know this. Hopefully you caught some sense of this. Audio engineers get no lunch. They get no snack. They get no smoke. There's none of that crap. Sorry. Does not exist. And most times you don't work 8 hours. Most times you work 10 to 12 hours. And you work very long sessions. Why? Because this is what happens. The artist is going to come in and pay for 8 hours of time. Are they going to want to pay for 30 minutes for you to go do nothing? Go take your lunch break? Of course not. Especially when an hour of time most times is $50 to $100 an hour. So in a client situation, you get the whole reason assistants exist, the whole reason interns exist, the whole reason runners exist. They go get the food, they bring it back to you, you eat it while you're pissing in the can over there, and then you run back and act like you weren't gone. Right? And that's the reality of what this unfortunately, the market is. Well, we're the artists, okay? So you're going to come in and you're going to do your vocals. You guys are going to run his vocals. As soon as he's done, I'm going to be hanging out in the lounge playing Xbox. As soon as he's done, I'm going to come in and expect for you guys to be ready to rock with me. Because he's done, now it's my turn. And as soon as I'm done, now it's Sal's turn. All right? And you follow me on this, right? So as soon as Sal's done, right, it's going to come back to me. We're going to go back to me. And as soon as we're all done with all this, all the tracking, we're gonna pay for 8 hours of time. We're gonna do 6 hours of tracking, and we're gonna give you 2 hours to edit and mix time. This is the clients do this all the time. We're gonna give you 2 hours of editing and mix time. When we're done with our tracking, we're gonna go get lunch. We're gonna go hang out at Claim Jumper across the street. 3 of us, all right? And you guys have to stay here, and when we get back, we expect this thing to be done. Think about that. If the 3 of us did really good work, your edits are gonna be easy. Oh man, you're gonna be on cloud 9 because you're gonna really focus on mixing. If the 3 of us did no click and just pooped all over these tracks, you guys are going to spend the whole time trying to fix it. You're not going to be able to get to you couldn't even establish a mix. You're going to be trying to line up the kick with where the bass notes are supposed to be. You understand what I'm saying, right? Taking up time. And guess whose time it is? It's not the client's in most times. It's absolutely yours.
And then if you can't do it, it makes you look better.
Oh, hell yeah. They're going to blame you. Why doesn't our stuff sound good?
Yeah.
We thought you knew what you were doing. You know? And we're not going to pay you more money than what we already said. You know, as a matter of fact, we shouldn't owe you anything because we didn't walk away with anything that we thought was worthy enough to show. We didn't even show this to our parents.
You just got to fix it.
And that's the thing. So ideally, huge point of advice: don't jump into a session unless you know the clients are good enough to perform well. Because otherwise, you'll spend your whole life doing. I got involved in a really bad project, and I was doing it for a friend. I was just being nice, and I did not realize that it was going to be so bad, and it would take me so much extra work. And I was just doing it for free. And I was like, dude, I will never do another freebie for I wouldn't do it for my next of kin. No more freebies. Because what's it worth? To them, they just want to see you really take this and make it radio ready. You know, that's their vision. Oh yeah, it wouldn't take. Why would it take more than an hour to record a vocal? You know what I mean? Right? Why would I need more than one pass? You know, that's just the vision of that, unfortunately. So you have to be in charge of keeping your eye on the ball and keeping the client locked in. So you're just guiding them through this process. Why? Because in reality, you're guiding them towards something that makes life easier for you. Because otherwise, you're going to be over here pulling your hair out going, oh my gosh, I'm killing myself. At the end of the day, you guys are going to sound like a real band, but I knew what you sounded like 2 hours ago, and you know I'm the one that's killing myself trying to make this happen. You know, so it gets very, very difficult in that sense. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and get our mics set up. What I want you to do is your audio tracks. This is a real big given, but it's very important. You must label your audio tracks before you record. Why? Anybody know?
So you know where you're recording on.
Yeah, well, okay, yes. And what did you say, Cameron?
So the clip will be named that.
Yes, because the clip will be named whatever your nameplate says when you record it. So if your nameplate, they call these a nameplate in technical terms. If your nameplate says audio 1 and you record on audio 1, in your file folder, it's going to call it audio 1. Well, that's a sucky reference, right? There's no way to differentiate audio 1 from another audio. This is really interesting. As soon as you guys redo these, as soon as you name these, this is what happens. People do this all the time. So, okay, so let's say I do record on this. So I'm going to go ahead and record on audio. Let's say I record on audio. I'll do audio 1. Let me pull this down here, though. Oh, wait, no, this will actually work. I'm going to record to audio 1. So watch how this happens. Okay? Recording to audio 1. Why is there wait for MIDI note on? Hold on.
So should we have a click track on these tracks we have here?
No, because we're just going to do some basic dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah, but check this out.
Sound? Is it the word?
So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and do a recording, okay? So watch what this is called. Audio 1-02. All right, so I'm going to name this. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and name this. And now watch what happens. I need a new track. Did you see what that new track was named?
Same.
Look at it. This is my new track right here. So what it does is after you've cleared an audio 1 out of the list, if you rename something after the fact that you recorded it, it's going to reestablish it as a new audio 1. Go record this. Tell me what the difference. Tell me what the difference is if you were going and jumped in and you recorded this. So Cameron, you're making a good point, and it's valid. This is just kind of prereq information. Audio 1-03. Now, some of you may be good enough to establish the difference between what 01 and 03 is, and 02 and 03, and 01 and 02. Right? Now, but give me 12 tracks of drums, give me 2 tracks of bass, give me 6 tracks of guitar, give me 16 tracks of background vocals, give me 2 tracks of keys, give me a track of tambourine, right? Give me 2 tracks of lead, and then give me, maybe 8 buses for reverb, delay, special effects. Once all that stuff gets in there, there's no way you're going to keep track of what's what from this standpoint. So you have to label the nameplate before you begin recording. So your first thing you're going to do right now, go ahead, you can just put, for now, I would just put VO, because these are just going to be voiceovers, nice and simple, VO. But as long as you know what it is. Now, even in the comments, what I like to do, anybody ever use the comments? I use the comments religiously. You know why? This is what I'll do. When I'm doing like a couple things. If I'm working with different artists, let's say our band, we're getting our band back together, guys. Me and Sal and William. All right, we're going to get the band back together. So when me and Sal and William are recording, if Sal's the drummer and William is the bass player and I'm the guitarist, that's fine. We just put drums, bass, guitar. But if all 3 of us play acoustic guitar, we're a trio acoustic guitar band. We all play the same instrument. We're going to want to make sure we know the difference between Sal's guitar and William's guitar and my guitar. Now, I like to use initials sometimes when I'm doing tracking, so I might just put S guitar, V guitar, W guitar as a track name. But in order to simplify that, the other thing you could do is you could put acoustic guitar 1 and put in the notes, this is William, right? The other thing I like to do in my notes, in my comments for other engineers if they're working on my stuff, like as a mix engineer or something, I'll put, you know what, this one was recorded with, let's just say we use AKG 414. Oops. So a lot of times I'll also put which mic I use so that I remember. Because when I do, this is the other thing I do. A lot of times when I'm doing big sessions, I may have 6 different mics out on different amps or different things. And I want to know if I do them individually to different tracks, I want to make sure I keep track of which mic's which, right? So in your notes, put VO SM58. Now this next part's going to be ridiculously easy, so just entertain me for like 2 seconds.
What did you say? VOSMA?
SM58, the microphone that you're going to use. Okay, so your I/O for your individual track, whatever that track that you put VO on, whatever track that is, please make sure your I/O says input 1 because you should have connected that input to input 1. And your output should just be your stereo output, so output 1 and 2. Okay? Got that so far?